Hello YouTube, welcome back to another Fantasy Football Scout video with me, Lee, from FPL Family. This is Sam. We are in now Game Week 3, Sam, of our price prediction Lee versus Sam competition. Remind everybody of the scores, and then remind everybody of what happened in Game Week 2.
So I was winning 1-0 going into Game Week 2. During Game Week 2, you had the premium assets.
The easier picks,
the over 10% owned, and I had the differentials under 10% ownership. So you went for, and this is a really unlucky one because you had Dina as your defender last week. Could have and should have had way more points.
How did he not get more than... He got 1 point, I think. Maybe two. One point in that game. If you're a Dina owner in FPL, get in the comments below. Let us know how you feel. I personally, I don't have him, but if I did, I would be seething after that weekend. How that guy didn't get points.
I know.
Actually, as a non-owner, it was uncomfortable.
Well, as a non-owner, I was glad he didn't get any points because, you know, he's quite, well-owned, of course.
Definitely a hold for me if you've got him, definitely.
For sure. So Dina, just the 1 pointer. You had Aubameyang as your midfielder last week, so just the 1 assist, 5 points, which, it's okay.
Yeah. How do you feel about Aubameyang after the first two? I've captained him twice, he's returned twice. I don't know what I'm moaning about.
I've captained him twice, then shipped him out.
He's great. He's gone after Kevin De Bruyne.
Thanks for your service. You're not good enough. Off you go.
There we go. He's gone.
And then you had Martial as your forward in a unexpected turnaround or turn up for the books rather in terms of that Manchester United performance. Just didn't see that
Palace
coming.
played well, didn't they? Palace played very well indeed.
Absolutely. So grand total of 8 for you.
Absolute rubbish. Okay, go on then.
On to my differentials then. So much like your defender, just the 1 point for Ayling, who I had as my defender of choice last week. Much like Martial, Rashford with just the 2 points this
we both
week.
picked Man United assets, didn't we? Expecting us to come in.
Expecting more, but
Let me guess who you picked up front.
The legend, Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
Oh yeah, you didn't have Kane, right? Because he would have been, a premium pick. Okay, so DCL.
So DCL with a 17 pointer, 3 goals, 3 bonus points. I'll make that 2-0.
He looks great value, doesn't he, Dominic Calvert-Lewin? Is he this year's Ings?
Well, he's certainly putting up a fight at the moment, and he's certainly looking that way. Whether he can continue it, who knows? I mean, I don't see any reason why not at the moment. Everton are in really, really good form.
I'll give you a reason why not. Crystal Palace away in Game Week 3. That will be a difficult game for the Toffees. I don't know if I would be bringing in Dominic Calvert-Lewin ahead of that. But listen, he's a good asset. He's a good asset. They are looking good.
So that's 2-0 to Sam. You need to up your game going into Game Week 3 with your differential picks for this week. So you've got the under 10s.
I mean, we're in familiar territory here, guys, aren't we? I mean, this is how last season went both in FPL and in Lee versus Sam. So I feel very comfortable being 2-0 behind.
Although this season you are beating me in FPL currently.
That doesn't feel quite so comfortable. Yeah, I'm sure that'll turn around soon. But anyway, 2-0 to you in Lee versus Sam. This week, Game Week 3, I've got the differentials. You've got the big money picks.
I have.
As usual, guys, defender, midfielder, forward have to be from 3 different teams.
Yes.
Your defender of choice, please.
London, we're going to Chelsea and Reece James. I think, for me, Reece James has been the standout performance of that Chelsea backline. There's huge amounts of attacking threat there. To be honest,
it's called a worldie in Game Week. I wouldn't say attacking threat, but it was just a long shot from nothing, wasn't it?
But there has been some movement forward from him, and I think from a Chelsea point of view, if you're going to pick a Chelsea defender, I'm always a little bit wary, whilst Kepa is still the keeper, that there is an incident involving Kepa flapping or missing out. Yes, they have, which makes me a bit more confident in picking a Chelsea defender if we're going to see the new guy start out straight away. But I think, for me, nice game week this week against West Brom. Would expect Chelsea to win that game. Would expect there to be opportunities for Chelsea going forward. And Reece James, I think, will be part of that. And I know as a non-Reece James owner in FPL, he's the Chelsea player actually that makes me nervous not owning him at the moment. Strangely, I don't own Werner still, but I'm more nervous about not owning Reece James than I am even him right now.
Interesting. All right, 5.1, really good value if you want to get into that Chelsea back line. Is it West Brom away or at home? It's away, isn't it? Well, listen, Diangana and Pereira already off the mark, aren't they, for West Brom? So I'm not sure if I fancy Chelsea for the clean sheet, let's see. But there is attacking potential, but there, you're right. And the way that Frank Lampard set them up against Liverpool was far more defensive, I think, than the slight bit about, he gave him a bit more freedom, didn't he, against Brighton. And I suspect they'll set up with the same sort of attacking intent against West Brom. And I think they'll go for it, and I think we'll get forward. I think you're right. So there we go. Reece James, 13.3% owned already. Actually quite high.
Quite highly owned, yeah. Who are you putting up against him this week?
Well, my differential is Roman Saiss. Actually, not that much difference there in ownership. 13.3 for James,
Just
and then 9.4. He just squeaks under the allotted 10% there. This is a bit of an eye test pick. Now, obviously, Wolves defensively, statistically, were fantastic last season, particularly in Project Restart between 30 and 38. In particular, this guy, Roman Saiss's underlying numbers between 30 and 38 last season were very, very good indeed. And then in Game Week 1, he was like a rocket going forward.
Yes,
Obviously, he got the goal, but I remember watching the Match of the Day highlights thinking this guy could have had a hat-trick. I mean, I think the keeper saved a really good one. There was another one that Jimenez laid off to him. I was thinking, every time I saw this guy, I was going to bomb him forward. Now, of course, against Manchester City in Game Week 2, maybe I'm reading that as a bit of an outlier in the stats, if you want, a bit of an anomaly, because they're playing Manchester City, and Man City were that good in that game. But I think Roman Saiss is still a really nice pick based on what I've seen so far this season. He did still pass
the eye test in Game Week 2. I think even against Manchester City, he didn't look, they were attack, wave upon wave, and they never looked like they were going to get smashed, I don't think. They always looked kind of comfortable, and I think the scoreline kind of flattered Man City by the end. Defensively, they didn't look bad, and particularly given they had to make early change to their defensive unit as well, with Vinagre coming off the bench. So I think for me, I really like him as a pick. I think against West Ham, who haven't started the season that great, had a better performance obviously in the League Cup, but now have lost Issa Diop and have lost David Moyes to COVID, so they won't be around. So not having the manager in the dugout, it's not ideal.
Didn't affect them in the cup, did it? Their biggest win for months without David Moyes.
No, but it's not ideal, is it, going into a Premier League game to have kind of that circumstances surrounding the club? And I think Wolves will have too much for West Ham, and therefore I think Saiss is a really nice pick. There is always, of course, the opportunity for Antonio and Souček to just pop up with something because they are quality players, but I do think defensively Wolves look solid again. So. Yeah,
COVID or no COVID, West Ham haven't looked that great. So there's potential for Saiss, I think, from set pieces, or if he's just bombing forward like he did in Game Week 1. 5.1 million, so he's gone up a 0.1 already. But like I say, still just about a differential at 9.4. And he's a BPS magnet as well. He likes to rake in those bonus points. So there we go. Roman Saiss up against your Reece James. Now, the battle in midfield is between the Man City players. So come on, tell us about this guy. How good, Sam, how good was Kevin De Bruyne against Wolves on a scale of 1 to infinity?
Infinity.
More than infinity. He was so good.
I just think with Kevin, there is...
First name terms, I like it.
He's a legend of FPL. For me, Kevin De Bruyne is... He's a player, and if you remember back to this time last season, he was the player that I had in my fantasy team because I couldn't afford Sterling and I was so anxious about it.
Yeah.
And then we had the season that we had from Kevin last year, and it was just epic owning him. And he was the one player that every week you put in your team and you'd just be like, yeah, I'm comfortable with you. I never thought about taking him out. And this year, I thought I was being clever. I was like, they've got Wolves in Game Week 2. Let's not panic him in Game Week 2. I can get the Man United boys instead. They've got an easier game against Palace. Oh, did I get that wrong? Boy, did I get that wrong. Should have brought in Kevin for Game Week 2.
In hindsight, everyone's gone for Aubameyang Game Week 1 and 2 because of the fixtures. And then De Bruyne just blows him out the water with his one fixture. In what is, let's face it, against... arguably the best, but certainly one of the best defences in the Premier League.
Yes.
And City were very, very good, but he was at the heart of everything.
He was, and actually, so in that game against Wolves, he had 103 touches of the ball. He touched the ball every 90 seconds.
Stupid, isn't it?
And as a fantasy asset, if you're going to touch the ball every 90 seconds... you
will be involved.
That is perfect, isn't it, as an FPL manager? So it wasn't even a question, I've got premiums. I've got the ones that are highly owned this week. I think I might have Kevin then.
What do you make of this slight change to where he's playing as well? Because after the game he came out and he said, I like playing number 10 because it helps me to get more involved with the attack. And obviously every FPL manager's eyes lit up if they weren't already lit up by the performance. Difficult to know what Pep's going to do week to week with different players in different positions, but surely he's looking at that. And surely those comments suggest... he's going to be playing even more advanced and more involved with the attacks.
I think so. And I think without David Silva and the slight shift in how the personnel at Manchester City, and obviously lost Gundogan to COVID as well for a couple of weeks. So all of that is at play in terms of how Pep sets up. Plus, we now also know that with Kevin, with some certainty, that he's on penalties, given he took the one in the game against Wolves. So
I think with a lot of certainty, I think you can say that.
So I think there is just nothing not to like about him. They're coming up against Leicester this week at home, first home game of the season. I'd expect them to do well in that game. Leicester have not looked settled defensively at all so far.
Yeah, I can see a couple against Burnley. Right?
They've had some good performances, but... they've had some okay performances so far. Bit lucky in the first game week with those 2 penalties. Just defensively, I haven't seen enough from them to make me think that they can keep out Man City and the players that they have, and in particular Kevin De Bruyne. I just think he's a perfect candidate for putting your armband on this week. And
into your FPL team, game week 3?
Literally, the final whistle blew on Monday night. In you come. Straight in.
He's absolutely
I'm sorry for my sins. I'm sorry for not owning you for game week 2.
Sorry for not believing you during game week 1 and 2.
Apologies, Kevin. Here is your spot. You now have it for the next 36 weeks.
And I think, barring injury, and touch wood, we don't get that because obviously we want to see the best players in the Premier League. Barring injury, he will be there for 36 game weeks for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and make a case for somebody... to go up against the phenomenon that is Kevin De Bruyne, and I have to. Well, you can't laugh. It's Raheem Sterling.
No, I laugh.
I laugh because
no, I'm not laughing about Sterling. I laugh for a couple of reasons. One, because the only way you found to match Kevin De Bruyne is to go with his teammate, and secondly, because how is Sterling only owned by 4.5% or 5.4% of the game?
Sterling is only owned by 5.4% of the game because Kevin De Bruyne is owned by whatever he is. And do you know what? I listened to Karam talk to Joe and Az on the Scoutcast a couple of days ago, and he was talking about, given that his structure is to have an extra premium midfielder who's going for 3 big in the middle because he's a little bit lighter at the back with the Liverpool defence. He's actually having he's got 3 Liverpool defenders, which means he hasn't got Salah in the middle. So he's got sort of, in the Salah spot, somebody else like a Sterling or a KDB. Okay. So he's brought KDB in, and he's saying he could bring in Sterling as well. I think if you wanted to double up on these guys on the Man City midfield, I'd say it's bold, but I wouldn't.
So he's got 3 Liverpool at the back and potentially 2 City in the middle.
Yeah, and what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? It's a really nice strategy, I think.
I do think that Sterling is being massively overlooked this season on the basis that De Bruyne had such a fantastic season last season, and he just looked full of it again on Monday night. Now that's actually not saying that Sterling didn't, because Sterling
looked pretty good, got the assist,
had a good performance on Monday evening. Yeah. I think, and there were a number of moments in that game where he could have and probably should have scored.
Yeah, no one beat Sterling for penalty box touches in that game. He was tied with Raul Jimenez and guess who? But listen, I've got to go for him because I'm just really intrigued to see how the differential and the non-differential plays off here. It's been the question on FPL managers' lips for a long time now, isn't it? As to which Man City asset to bring in. Now, I am under no illusions that Kevin has got to be in my team.
You bought him in yet?
I have bought him in, yeah, absolutely. Aubameyang to De Bruyne was, to be honest, always my plan throughout the summer when I saw those fixtures when it came out. And actually, in the first couple of game weeks, neither Aubameyang or De Bruyne did anything different to what I was expecting to change my mind on that move. However, if City get in their groove early, which it looks like they have, you've got to have a look at Sterling as well. Would you look at him instead of De Bruyne? I'm not sure, but could you look at him as well as De Bruyne? If you've got a setup like Karam has, maybe you do. 5.4 for Sterling.
I mean, they definitely mean business this season, Man City. They definitely want their crown back.
They do want their crown back. So there we go. We've got the classic KDB versus Sterling dilemma going on here on Lee versus Sam this week.
Talking about classic picks.
Classic picks. Here we are. It's a scout video, guys. It's with Sam and Kane features. So we're getting a serious sense of deja vu here. Go on then, Harry Kane.
I mean, sometimes I pick Kane and... There is a
times you pick Kane.
There is a definite sense of bias sometimes when I pick Harry Kane.
No, what?
However,
how dare you?
However, this week I don't think it can be questioned as to why I've picked Harry Kane this week. On the back of 4 assists and a goal against Southampton in 45 minutes, or in just over 45 minutes, he was unbelievable in that game in terms of the way that he saw the space and he looked for Son. No, even you have to admit this. And I think, for me, what made a massive difference, and the reason why I've gone for him this week, because there were a couple of options in the forward bracket that I thought, yeah, they could be good picks this week. But I think Newcastle looked off it when I watched them play last week.
Funny performance, wasn't it? I was expecting more after game week 1.
Because they looked good in game week 1, but now I'm starting to think, well, did they look good in game week 1, or did West Ham make them look better than they were? Were they flattered in game week 1? Then game week 2, I think the St Maximin thing just unsettled them. He wasn't on form. Anyway, moving into game week 3, I think Spurs are coming into that now having had one less performance than they were expecting, because obviously the League Cup game got called off. Have got to go to Macedonia, so there is an element of risk in this, that he gets injured in Macedonia and then doesn't. Macedonia.
Yes, I think that's where we're going.
And doesn't play, but I think that's unlikely. I think for me, his vision in that game, his this potential for him to get assists, the link-up play was so much better. He and Son's partnership has developed massively. I expect that to only continue to improve as the season goes on. It's Harry Kane right against Newcastle. He does like to score against Newcastle when we're back at home, so Kane for the win.
You very, very much got your Spurs goggles on here. Very much. Now, he got 21 points, so I'm not going to sit here and say he didn't play well.
Did you have
Harry
him in
Kane.
your fantasy team?
Didn't have him in my fantasy team. I know you did. You've not barely mentioned it, and it was a cracking performance. But let me tell you, I know you're saying he spotted those holes in the Saints' defence. I spotted the holes in the Saints' defence. Our 6-year-old spotted the holes in the Saints. Were absolutely awful. Have you ever seen, guys, a Premier League team play the high line so badly with defenders that are so slow? Literally, Mourinho, who, you guys know my thoughts on Mourinho, even he could spot it. He said, Kane, right, drop deep, and you just feed the ball through to Son because Son's quicker. You could have put literally... Spurs could have put their under-7s out, right? And they would have spotted those holes in that Saints defence.
No, I'm not having it.
Now, I'm not saying that Kane's not a good pick against Newcastle. I'm not saying Son's a bad pick. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have him in your FPL teams. Of course you should, because Spurs are a wonderful side, as you know. And of course, they're boosted by the arrival of a certain Welshman in the last week or so. However, I cannot believe, guys, that any Premier League team is going to defend as badly as the Saints did. That could have been any team playing Southampton at the weekend. We could be sitting here talking about Kai Havertz getting 4 assists and a goal and Werner getting 4 goals. We could be talking about Liverpool. We could be talking about Rashford and Martial. Anyone would have done it against that defence. And on that basis, I still need to see more of Spurs. It sounds crazy, doesn't it? Because 21 points, Son with the 4 goals, surely you load onto them. But for me, I just want to see a bit more, because in game week 1, you weren't good. And in the first half of that game, when the Spurs players weren't smart enough to spot those gaps, they were rubbish. And then on the stroke of half-time, got the good goal. Mourinho says, drop back, put Son through in the middle because they're slow and rubbish, Saints, and it was just all over. It was all over. Saints made the same 4 mistakes in 26 minutes. However...
Not bitter at all, are you?
I'm so bitter at the 21 points that you got. That's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Anyway, I'm going to go...
24 this week.
I'm going to... Yeah, it's probably getting better than 21. I'm going out there. I need something special.
So you've got Wood?
I need something special this week in Sam versus Lee, because not only am I 2-0 down, but you've got De Bruyne and you've got Kane. So I've gone out there and I'm going for... When you need something special, who do you think when you think special?
Harry Kane.
You think Burnley?
You don't think the Burnley attack. You might have last season thought the Burnley defence, but you don't generally think the Burnley attack.
As we were putting these graphics and this video together, I started to replay the conversation in my head that we've just had about the Saints defence. So the reason I like the look of Chris Wood is because he's up against that very, very porous
he's quick like Son?
Saints defence. Now, as I was putting this graphic together with Chris Wood, I just thought, actually... Jay Rodriguez is quicker than him, and actually McNeil is quicker, and they could actually break that Saints high line if Saints choose to play it again, which, given that's Hassan Hüttl's philosophy, that's the way he's trying to play, I think that they will go into that game again like that. Will we see Chris Wood come more into that Kane deeper role and play CAM and play those balls through to the likes of McNeil and Rodriguez? I actually think Jay Rodriguez, by the way, I wrote it down, 0.7% owned, better than than Chris Wood. So both look like good picks, but because I've done my graphic, I'm going to go with Chris Wood. 2.1% owned, 6.5 million. I actually think that his obviously main threat is from set pieces as well. A lot of the time, he's good aerially, he's good from set pieces. I don't think Saints are too bad from set pieces. So again, do like McNeil, do like Rodriguez, but listen, we've got a bit of pedigree with Chris Wood. He knows where the goal is.
Does it not worry you that...
Oh, it worries me a lot having Chris Wood, let's be honest. Should have gone Rodriguez.
Yeah, I love that. Does it not worry that last season when Southampton were embarrassed by Leicester, that they really did bounce back, and after that they were much, much better. And I wonder whether the embarrassment that they felt in that second half against Spurs, when it was just wave after wave, might just be enough that makes Hazelhütten and Southampton go, that cannot happen again.
Yeah, possibly.
And it might be really tight against them.
Let's see how that game goes. I think they're not gonna. You'd like to think that Saints aren't gonna concede multiple again. Certainly with that, they've got to be looking at that high line now and thinking that's a bad way for us to play with the defenders we've got now. When Salisu, their new signing, is fit, he's obviously a lot quicker, we think, than Vestergaard. So maybe he slots in there and they're better. Because actually at fullback, I don't think they're too bad. I think Kyle Walker-Peters had a reasonable start to the season. But it's Stevens, it's Vestergaard. They're not quick enough and they can't play it. Now, who better than Chris Wood and his pace to break that back line? I should have gone Jay Rodriguez, but I'm sticking with my man. We're going Chris Wood out there as the differential in the forward category, guys. So there we go. That is our picks. Chris Wood against De Bruyne. What is going on? 2-0 down already. I'm already 2-0 down, guys. I need something. I need a miracle from Chris Wood. I need Raheem Sterling. And I need Roman Size to... I don't know, get back that spirit that he had in game week 1, that bombing forward. I'm imagining that we're going to be sitting here next week, guys, and I'm going to be 3-0 down. Who have you got? Kane, De Bruyne and Reece James? Get in the comments below, guys, and let us know who you think is going to win this week. Do you think it's going to be #Team Lee or #Team Sam? I'll see you down in the comments where I'm going to be writing #Team Sam. Until next time on the Points Predictor, guys, we'll see you next time. Leave us a like before you go and hit that subscribe button. See you soon.
Bye, guys.